educated and uneducated. Great injustices are also being perpetrated against so-called uneducated people, although there is no legal basis for this. There is, in fact, a class of self-styled scholars who disdainfully dismiss others as fools, although I do not understand what these people actually mean when they describe themselves as scholars. If, by education, they mean the study of numerous books, then I must say there are countless instances where persons who have only completed their primary education have read more books than many university graduates. Whom shall I then call educated? If the extent of one's knowledge is assessed by the number of degrees one possesses, a question still remains. How can one say that one has learned something when one has hurriedly crammed a few subjects just to pass one's examinations and has forgotten everything after a few months or a few years? If education denotes refined taste or restrained behavior, illiterate people may also possess these qualities. Then again, if education means that people have learned much, remembered much and put their knowledge to practical use in their lives, it can be argued that people may not need to attend school to achieve this. So I have to say that the vanity of self-styled scholars is totally meaningless. In fact, human beings should not feel vanity about anything in this universe. This is even more true in the field of education than in other spheres of life. Some say, "Whom shall I mix with? Everyone here is a fool," or "Well sir, there is not a single person here I can associate with, or I do not bother going to villages. What is the use? I cannot find anyone to talk to." There are no grounds at all for such statements, only pure, unadulterated conceit. Those who have learned a lot by reading books or by hearing lectures should remember when they talk to others, that those with whom they are talking may have far greater knowledge than they in some spheres. An ordinary farmer is not often treated with respect, but the details of rice cultivation are at his fingertips. A statistician who calculates the size of the rice crop may, on the other hand, readily believe that a chair can be made from rice wood. So I say that it is the height of foolishness to brag about the extent of one's knowledge. Rather, such vanity is the living symbol of educational bankruptcy. Once an erudite Sanskrit scholar said to a boatman as they crossed a river, "You have not been able to answer even one of my philosophical questions. Half your life is gone in vain." In midstream, when the boat was about to sink, the boatman asked the scholar, "Reverend sir, can you please lend me a hand?" The scholar replied, "But I don't know how to row." The boatman retorted, "Now your whole life is about to go in vain." Generally, so-called scholars cannot express an opinion about the soil composition of a field without first having made a detailed scientific analysis of it. But I have seen an ordinary farmer, Kshranth Pal, who could not even see properly due to extreme old age, simply pick up a handful of earth and, without hesitation, describe the merits and demerits of the soil, and the various crops that could best be grown in it. Should I call this so-called uneducated man, Kedipal, a fool or a scholar? Is his practical knowledge, acquired by many years of hard-earned experience and through the practical application of those years of experience, totally worthless? Should not this knowledge also come under the heading of education? It is most undesirable for the inherent intuition in human beings to be neglected in preference to theoretical knowledge or information memorized by rote. Educated are those who have learned much, remembered much and made use of their knowledge in practical life. These virtues I call education. For such an education, mere knowledge of the alphabet is not very essential. It should, however, be accepted that literacy is extremely useful in recollecting what one has already learned. In my opinion, it is a great mistake to think that refined behavior represents education, for the true nature of a person is not limited to his or her external behavior but is reflected in the extent to which he or she has developed his or her magnanimity of mind. If you consciously or unconsciously bump into someone and say, "Oh sorry," without inquiring whether the person is hurt, that is enough to show one's refinement. Although this is a sign of what we call courtesy, it does not reflect genuine magnanimity of mind. The person's education will only be seen if he or she liberally applies a healing balm to the wound of the injured person, if the offender tries his or her utmost to mitigate the troubles of the injured person, even at his or her own expense. Then even the omission of the words "oh sorry" will not matter. Many things that are done in the name of education and refinement are simply hypocrisy. For example, instead of trying to remove the distress of their neighbors, some people merely ask, "What did you have with your rice today?" When the child replies, "Mummy only cooked spinach," the inquirer merely replies, "Oh what a pity. Your family must be in great difficulty." As they say great difficulty, they emphasize the words to give their fake concern a veneer of sympathy. This is hardly an indication of genuine social concern or magnanimity of mind. The main feature of what, in the modern sense, we call education or civility is that one does not have to take on the burden of others' troubles, one only has to pay lip service to them. If people actually do something constructive to alleviate the distress of others, this may hurt their own interests to some small extent, but if people merely take up the cause of others in Parliament, they can accomplish two things at one time. First, they will not be put to any trouble themselves, and secondly, they can gain adulation very cheaply. Those who protest against such hypocrisy are extremely vulnerable to accusations of incompetence or of being the agents of vested interests. If hypocrites declare that others are fools, should we accept their pronouncements with both heads? To be civilized means to give a refined form to everything, and it is inseparably connected with education. But if refinement takes second place and hypocritical behavior becomes the primary means of expression, that cannot be called civilization or education. If a man who is invited to a dinner party only nibbles at the savories, saying, "I am sorry, I cannot eat any more," then goes home to devour a hearty meal and later brags that he eats very little, an impression of abstemiousness may be created in the minds of others, but there is a complete lack of straightforwardness in his behavior. In modern society many aspects of civilization and education are of this sort. A little while ago we were discussing how difficult it is to distinguish between the educated and the uneducated. Ordinary people wrongly consider that those who baffle the minds of others with their affected erudition are educated. Such fakes are not necessarily university graduates. In fact, many of them try to project themselves as educated by using their wealth or official status. They open clubs or libraries to impress upon others that they should not be equated with the common people. They pretend to understand and know a lot, smile scholastically with closed eyes, and speak sparingly with reserve and gravity to ensure that they do not unwittingly expose themselves. While on the subject, I would like to add that such clubs may be acceptable under some circumstances. Members of a club want to enjoy open-hearted laughter and topics of mutual interest rather than be subjected to uncomfortable formalities. However, on principle I cannot fully support the idea of establishing clubs for particular linguistic groups. If, for example, a club is set up with this intention on the basis of a common language for the sake of avoiding linguistic difficulties, it should not be opposed, but neither should this sort of trend be encouraged. Separate clubs may be formed by special groups of researchers such as doctors and lawyers for the cultivation of particular branches of knowledge. Through interaction and friendly discussion there can be an exchange of important ideas which may result in the rapid growth of a particular science or research project. However, there is at this time a class of self-styled scholars who want to establish separate clubs for themselves for no particular reason. Is there any altruistic motive behind their demand? None at all. The actual reason is that they feel that if they mix with the illiterate masses their social prestige will be undermined. If you investigate more deeply, you will generally find that in such gentlemen's clubs immorality is rampant and wine flows in abundance. Should we, then, consider the members of these clubs to be civilized, cultured and educated scholars while other people are uncivilized, uncultured and uneducated fools? Such silly nonsense propagated in the name of civilization cannot be allowed to continue. We cannot build a strong society if we discriminate against a section of humanity by drawing imaginary lines of distinction between the educated and the uneducated. People must develop closer and closer links with each other. One heart must gain a warm and deep understanding of another heart. To make people conscious of their rights in every sphere of life, social, economic, psychic and spiritual, is called Jnanavistar, and to exercise these rights fully is called Vigyan Sadhana. Neglected people, who have remained ignorant of different branches of knowledge for whatever reason, should be given maximum opportunities to develop. There should not be any discrimination as far as these rights are concerned.